Welcome back to Grid Drop. Today we're going to review the first half of the 2023 F1 season. This video will be separated into driver rankings and then team rankings, with overall impressions and predictions mixed in. But before I start the video, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. It really helps me out, and feel free to leave a comment. That being said, let's get right into it. So the way we're going to do these rankings is by a tier ranking system. So there's terrible, subpar, decent, good, outstanding, and obviously Verstappen. So that being said, let's just get into my personal rankings for the 2023 driver lineups. Wait, do I do De Vries or Ricciardo first? Nick De Vries was a very promising driver coming into the season. However, as soon as he got in the car this year, all he did was f*** up. Seriously. I feel like every single race I watched this season, there was a quick cutaway to De Vries crashing, forcing someone off the track, or just racing like a complete idiot. That being said, I do think he's a talented guy, and although I love Daniel Ricciardo,
Sweat.
I think De Vries should have gotten a bit more of a chance to prove himself. Although, given what I saw so far, he's going to have to be our first entry into F tier. Terrible. However, not all is lost at AlphaTauri. Although the package that AlphaTauri have brought this year seems to be absolutely miserable, Yuki Tsunoda has achieved 2 points finishes so far. Yuki seems to be driving with much more confidence this year, taking more of a leadership role after Pierre Gasly left for Alpine. He has pretty much flown under the radar in my book, not making too many mistakes or having too many spectacular races either. Given that the AlphaTauri seems impossible to drive and Yuki's step up from last year, I'm putting him in the C tier. He's decent. Now this one's difficult, but Daniel Ricciardo is back in F1. Obviously his last 2 years were a complete disappointment, and that's coming from a Ricciardo fan, but I was extremely excited to hear about his progress at Red Bull. The Honey Badger was apparently lapping extremely quickly on the simulator and in the RB19 tests. Obviously there was that whole fiasco with Nick De Vries. Sorry Nick. So that means that Daniel Ricciardo has only had 2 races to prove his worth. Obviously the Danny Rick of the last 2 years was pretty painful to watch, and 1 or 2 good races doesn't warrant a good rating. We'll have to see what happens during the rest of the season, so personally I give Ricciardo a C tier rating. Decent. Guan Yu Zhou had a pretty good rookie year last year. Although many people accused him of being a paid driver, he proved a lot of the haters wrong and showed that he definitely has some talent. However, this year has been a little less strong for the Alpha driver, as he's only managed 2 points finishes so far. Granted, the 2023 Alfa Romeo seems to be a struggle to drive, but Zhou has not made too many mistakes from what I've seen. Overall, I put him in the C tier. He's been pretty decent so far. Valtteri Bottas.
Like I know exactly by millimeter the average penis size of a beaver.
One of my favorite drivers in Formula 1. Previously, he was a hugely important talent for Mercedes, but his current year with Alfa Romeo has proven to be quite a struggle. He has barely showed results, and although he's 1 point above his teammate in the driver's standings, he's been much more inconsistent. As such a high-caliber driver with so much more experience, I expect more from Bottas. Although I love the guy, I'm going to have to put him in the D tier. He's been subpar. At the beginning of the season, Kevin Magnussen was fighting for points, and consistently finishing just outside of them. However, a few DNFs and small incidents have caught up with him, and those P13 finishes are starting to slip away. He has slowly dropped his results back to a consistent P17 or P18. The development of the car is surely a factor in this, but Magnussen has not been too impressive this season. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to put him in the D tier, subpar.
Suck my balls, man.
Nico Hülkenberg has made much more of an impact than his teammate this year. However, not by much. Although he's higher in the standings, he only has 1 real points finish, the other coming from a sprint race. His qualifying results have been good, but they just haven't translated to good finishes. His results have been much more inconsistent than his teammate, and it's sort of a guessing game where the Hulk will finish every race. It is his first year back in F1, and the Haas seems to be a pretty difficult car, but unfortunately I'm putting him in D tier, subpar. Many times during their rookie year, poor performances and mistakes are overlooked. Logan Sargent has had one of those years. His overall performance in the car is okay at best, however he's not doing too terribly considering it's his first time in an F1 car. Although he is yet to finish in the points, crucially, he's not made any major mistakes in the car, giving him a C rating. He's decent. It might just be my American bias, but I think Logan has potential in F1. Not World Championship potential, but potential nonetheless. All of us know that Alex Albon is a talented driver, and he definitely deserves the hype that he's given. This year he's done well, scoring a few points finishes for Williams. Those races that Albon have scored points have been fantastic to watch, and from my perspective, he's definitely outperforming that car. However, he's had a few big mistakes that have cost him positions, but overall I think Albon deserves a place in the B tier. He's been good. Pierre Gasly is an extremely talented driver. His 2023 season has had highs and lows, he's had good races and bad races, citing 6 points finishes and 3 DNFs. However, most of these DNFs have not really been his fault. He's shown strong pace and seems to be working hard at Alpine. A lot of his races have flown under the radar, and I think he's gotten a bit of negative media attention. But overall, I put Gasly in the B tier. He's a good driver and has had a good season so far. Esteban Ocon has had an interesting season. He's had much more drastic highs and lows than his teammate Pierre Gasly, however he's still above him in the driver's standings. Ocon's highs include a podium in Monaco and 3 P8 finishes. However, the lows include 4 DNFs and 300,000 5-second penalties. However, given his experience with the team and only having 1 more DNF over his teammate, I expected more of a points gap between Ocon and Gasly. Although it may be a bit harsh, I put Ocon in C tier. Oscar Piastri is easily one of the most hyped up rookie drivers of recent memory. Although he's behind Lando in the standings, Oscar has not had too much of a different season than his teammate. In almost every single race this season, Piastri is stuck within 3 or 4 places of Lando, who spent years at McLaren, so the fact that Oscar is consistently managing his pace compared to Lando is a really good sign. Not to mention his performances in Silverstone, Spa, and Hungary showed that he's an extremely competent and confident driver that has a lot of potential at any team he joins. I give Piastri an A. He's been outstanding. Lando Norris has definitely shown his worth this season. The McLaren car has been extremely inconsistent this year, and until recently, results would vary from track to track. However, now that McLaren has a decent package, Lando has really been a leader for McLaren. Looking at the season as a whole, his results are inconsistent. However, he's managed to extract the maximum performance from the car each and every race. He's even finished on the podium. Overall, Lando goes in the same tier as his teammate, A tier. What a stinker of a year for Charles Leclerc. At this time in 2022, he was still a contender for the Drivers' Championship. Now in 2023, he's 7th in the Drivers' standings. He's demonstrated his talent this year with a couple of podium finishes, however he's not come close to the expectations that everyone had. DNFs, poor qualifying results, poor race results, and Ferrari strategists have ruined his season. Ferrari have an okay car this year, but it seems that Leclerc has lost his way. I put him in C tier. Leclerc's teammate, Carlos Sainz, has shown up this season. Despite having a decently fast car and horrible strategists, Sainz has managed to finish in the points in all but 1 race this season. His consistent results, compared to his teammates' inconsistency, have earned him a higher place in the driver's standings so far. Many of his races have flown under the radar, however the few times that F1 TV broadcast him, he's shown solid pace and clean racing. Given his consistency compared to Leclerc and the lack of pace in the Ferrari this year, I put Sainz in the B tier. Lance Stroll has been an absolute disaster this year. While his teammate is scoring podiums, he's hovering around the edges of the points. Aston Martin came with a very capable car this year, and Lance has failed to perform in every single way. Although his teammate is more experienced, Lance has spent years on the same team and has yet to prove his worth. This season is no different. While his teammate has extracted everything from the car, Lance continues to be a paid driver with little talent. Overall, I put Lance in F tier. He's horrendous. On the other hand, Fernando Alonso has been an extremely capable driver all season long. With several podiums and consistently stellar qualifying performances, Alonso is bringing the hype to Aston Martin. His true grit and experience have shown why he's a legend, and he consistently blows his teammate out of the water. He's outperformed his teammate at every single race this season, and that's why he deserves to be in the A tier. He's been absolutely outstanding. George Russell has definitely had some major highs and lows this season. His results have been inconsistent, and he's been behind his teammate for most races throughout the season. He's found himself in the points for every race he's finished, but that's to be expected when driving a Mercedes. I think George is having a decent season, and Mercedes is still just coming around to more podiums. Overall, I put George in the B tier. Lewis Hamilton has had a very good season so far. Although his teammate has struggled and that Mercedes package is not as great as it used to be, he still managed to get consistent, high points results. Given that Mercedes struggled last year and is starting to put a foot forward this year, Lewis seems to be consistently outperforming the car. Not outperforming by miles, but outperforming nonetheless. I think his season so far has showed the determination and consistency of a 7-time world champion. I put Lewis in the A tier. He's been great so far. Where do I even begin? Sergio Perez has had an absolutely insane season. At the beginning, he was fighting Max Verstappen and was genuinely in the conversation for the Drivers' Championship, and then it all fell apart. He boasted a couple of race wins, but eventually those wins became all too rare, and inconsistent results took their place. His recent qualifying performances have been abysmal, and although he's managed to claw himself back up the order in the races, he should not be living life on the edge while driving the fastest car in F1 this year. Overall, I give Perez a rating in the C tier. He had good results at the beginning of the season, but this recent spell of mistakes is killing him. Last but not least by any means, we have Max Verstappen. Max has been absolutely destroying the competition throughout the entirety of the season. It's not even a question anymore that Max will win the race by 30 seconds. In fact, he's still on track to break Sebastian Vettel's record of 9 wins in a row. There's not much to be said about Max besides the fact that he's absolutely dominant and a complete robot when it comes to racing. He really has come to form this season, and I haven't got a single doubt in my mind that he will be the Drivers' Champion in 2023. Obviously, Max is going to go into V tier. So there you have it. Those are my mid-season 2023 Formula One drivers rankings. I don't think any of these are too extreme, but if you have different views, definitely leave a comment. I'm very interested to see what other people think about this. But now we're going to get into part 2 of the video. Now we're going to be doing team rankings and predictions following the same tier list as before. AlphaTauri has just been a disaster this year. They had strong performances in years past, but something about this year's car is just abysmal. It seems to be an absolute tractor for both of their drivers to manage, and it doesn't look like any major upgrades are coming onto the car. Obviously, we're going to have to see how Danny Rick does during the rest of the season, but I can't see anything good coming from AlphaTauri. I think that Alpha is going to throw away the rest of the season and focus on development for next year's car. I think Yuki will continue to have decent results, and I think Ricciardo will be a little bit inconsistent. He's done alright so far, but there's only so much you can do in that car. Ricciardo's performance is pretty much the only thing interesting happening at AlphaTauri. Everything else is shit. I put them in F tier. Alfa Romeo have flown under the radar this year. They have a good driver pairing, but the car itself seems terrible and it's clearly a struggle to drive. They've not shown much promise with car development, and it doesn't seem like any of their upgrades work properly. They had a strong start to the season last year and slowly dropped back down the order, and it seems like they picked up right where they left off this year. I don't think there's much hope for Alpha this year. Unless they have a major breakthrough in terms of upgrades, they're going to remain a backmarker team. What's frustrating is how strong they were at the beginning of last year, and how they just can't continuously upgrade their car the way other teams do. I don't think we're going to see much of anything from the Italian team the rest of the year. I put them in D tier. Haas have pretty much flown under the radar for me too this year. They have some decent qualifying results that grab my attention, but they always slip back when the race comes around. At the end of last year, it looked like Haas was finally starting to gain some traction. However, this year they look very flimsy. I've not been impressed with Haas at all this season. I don't think the rest of the season will impress me either. Magnussen and Hülkenberg are both skilled drivers, but I think they lack the passion that other drivers on the grid use to their advantage. Unless they bring a major upgrade ASAP, they're going to stay at the very back of the midfield. I put them in D tier. Williams have taken a huge step forward from last year. They have a really strong driver in Alex Albon, and he consistently gives the team opportunities for points and good results. Sargent has been okay, but he's a rookie. Overall, their car development this year has been solid, and it looks like things are finally going well for the iconic team. I've been impressed with a lot of their results so far, however the bar is almost always at the floor for Williams. I think the rest of the season will showcase Albon's talent and also Sargent's mediocrity, leading to talks about Sargent's potential departure at the end of the season. I see Albon scoring at least one more point finish, and even Logan Sargent as well. All it takes is one crazy race or safety car, which we haven't had much of this year, but Williams can take a big haul of points. I really hope they continue to effectively develop their car because I love seeing them do well. I put Williams in the B tier. They've been pretty good. Alpine have yet to impress me this season. Obviously, Ocon had his podium in Monaco, but the rest of the season has been a bit of a dud for the French team. They seem to have taken a step backwards from where they were last year, and the car development does not seem to be improving. The driver lineup is strong. However, if they have one more of these double DNFs, they should take a step back and majorly reevaluate some things within the team. I don't think much is going to turn around for Alpine. It doesn't look like they have much to look forward to in terms of upgrades, and their string of poor results might take a toll on their drivers' confidence. I see Alpine pretty much staying exactly where they are at the moment. I put them at D tier, subpar. At the beginning of the season, the McLaren was a tractor. However, the two drivers got used to the car, and as the team slowly upgraded it, they started to achieve better results. McLaren was not in the limelight at all until recently, as a lot of their results seemed like one-off achievements. However, their new upgrade package has brought them right into the fight. During the second half of the season, I predict that McLaren will continue to improve and even overtake Aston Martin in the standings. Although I'd love to see McLaren take P2, their fight with Mercedes is going to be an interesting one. They're going to have to rely on Mercedes lacking major upgrades, which is something the team is not known for. Otherwise, I think Lando is going to continue to show strong leadership, and Oscar Piastri will continue to impress. Even though his confidence has been incredible so far, I do think Piastri will make a couple mistakes when he's high up the order that will cost him a podium. However, I also think that Piastri and Lando will achieve more podiums for the team. Overall, it finally looks like everything is looking up for McLaren. I'm going to put them in A tier. Their car development has been outstanding. The Italian team has not been impressive to me this year. At this time last year, the Scuderia was still in the conversation for both championships. However, they've majorly backtracked for the 2023 season. Their car isn't nearly as quick, and now they're getting overtaken by other teams. Sainz and Leclerc are obviously a strong driver pairing, but the lack of performance from the car and terrible strategists and engineers are severely wounding Ferrari. I don't think Ferrari has much to fight for this season. I predict they'll be overtaken by McLaren, and their fight will remain with Aston Martin. I don't see any major improvements coming for Ferrari, and I think they should allocate a bit more of their time towards their car for next season. At this rate, they're going to slip back into the midfield once again, and I just can't bear to see their talented drivers stuck in subpar machinery anymore. Overall, I give Ferrari a D rating. They've been subpar. At the beginning of the season, Aston Martin was looking incredibly strong. So strong, in fact, that most fans were predicting Alonso to beat Verstappen on pure race pace. Although Lance Stroll has been driving like a complete garbage bag, Aston Martin has shown incredible promise. However, as the season went on, their development through some of the major race weekends was lacking, and is starting to take a small toll on their overall performance. Aston Martin need to get their upgrades in order if they want to fight the other teams. If not, they're going to slip back into the midfield and watch Mercedes and McLaren take their spot. I predict that Alonso continues to achieve good results, while Stroll continues to be a fuck-up. Unfortunately, I don't see them putting up much of a fight to McLaren and Mercedes, and I think that in a few races' time, Aston will slowly start to slip. I put Aston in B tier. Mercedes has made leaps from where they were last year, and finally seem to be consistent. However, in order to finish second in the Constructors' Championship, both drivers need to be consistent with their results. They've made great progress compared to last year, and continue to bring solid upgrade packages this season. It will be interesting to see where Mercedes ends up at the end of the year. I believe they'll finish either P2 or P3 in the Constructors' Championship, granted they can keep their upgrades consistently above the other teams. There isn't too much to say about Mercedes, as they're gradually increasing performance and improving. It's more of a question of the other teams fighting them. Overall, Mercedes is in the A tier. They're going to continue closing the gap to Red Bull, it's just going to take some time. Red Bull and Verstappen have been absolutely dominant, and it's clear that there's not a single thing that can stand in their way. The RB19 is an Adrian Newey masterpiece, and Max is completely unbeatable. Every single race is a given that Max will win, it's just a question of by how much. They've continued to upgrade their car and have shown that they're going to be incredibly difficult to beat over the coming years. My main predictions for Red Bull are this: Max wins the Drivers' Championship, Red Bull wins the Constructors' Championship, and they remain absolutely dominant throughout the rest of the season. Perez is a bit of a loose cannon as of recently, so I'm not sure exactly how that will get sorted out, but the Perez-Ricciardo saga and the rumors will be interesting, but I doubt they replace him at the end of the season. Since Red Bull is so dominant, the real fight is between the other teams. Overall, Red Bull is in V tier. They're untouchable this season. Overall, the season has been a bit boring. We haven't had too much drama in terms of the races, and it's just been clear dominance from Red Bull. The real focus is going to be on McLaren's progress up the drivers and constructors standings, as well as watching Daniel Ricciardo's performance. I hope we get to see some more exciting races in the second half of the season, and I don't mean Max not winning. I want better racing throughout the field. Silverstone had a lot of good racing, however many of the tracks this year show that the design of these cars is flawed, and they have a lot of work to do for the regulations if they want these cars to be able to follow and overtake more easily. I think the second half of the season has potential to be interesting based on certain teams' car development, but overall I've not been impressed. I put this season in the C tier. It's been decent. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a like or comment about what you think, and also check out my Discord linked in the description. That's going to do it, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.